Thank you, Ken. Appreciate it. Thank you, Christine. Thank you, Brian. Very interesting. As Ken mentioned, we all are thinking now as what does the future entail. I will have a question for both of you towards in the last session. With this, I would like to invite speakers for our next session, which is sustainable energy ecosystem practices and solutions. I will share the screen. Great. Can you all see the screen?
Yes.
Jeff and Ethan, welcome to this session. For everybody in the audience, I would like to share that Jeff is Chief Revenue Officer of Cantaloupe Inc., one of our supporters of this event and other events, and Ethan is with Cox Enterprises. Their bios are in the program book. And please, with this, I would like to thank you and welcome. And Jeff, you can start with your remarks.
Yeah, thanks very much. Appreciate the opportunity. I thought it may make sense to maybe spend 30 seconds just giving you some context on why I was asked to participate in this event. So the company I work for is Cantaloupe Inc. And Cantaloupe is a technology infrastructure provider in the self-service retail space. Okay, so we provide a cloud platform that allows consumers to use their credit cards, e-wallets like Apple Pay, Google Pay, or their favorite loyalty and reward points to purchase goods and services, again, in self-serve, self-checkout retail environments, right? So today, the company has over 1 million points of connectivity across principally the United States. We have a little bit of business in Canada, but the overwhelming majority of our footprint, our retail point of sale footprint is in the United States. So that ranges from vending machines to self-serve laundromats where you can use your credit card to do your laundry, air and vacuum machines that you see at 7-Elevens, Quick Trip, racetracks, and other chain grocery stores, as well as other brick and mortar retail locations like hotels where you check in, check out without having to interface with a clerk at the check-in desk. So again, it's all about self-serve, autonomous retail. And I think the tie-in here is one of the verticals where my company has had quite a bit of interaction historically has been with large gas station operators, the big energy producers, right? Ranging from ExxonMobil, Texaco, all the way down the line, right? So we principally do not work directly with the large operators, but all of our, or many of our large technology partners do, right? So the thing that is particularly interesting to a company like Cantaloupe, and just in terms of driving, sustainability, which is certainly important to me personally and to a lot of my colleagues, is how do we partner with our ecosystem to drive sustainability and change, right? And one of the things that we think is particularly interesting is we're seeing a lot of the large energy producers who, up until recently, have, they do pay at the pump. So when you pull up and you dip your credit card into the credit card reader, some of our technology providers facilitate the electronic payments transaction from the pump to the store, and then from inside the store back to the pump, right? But what we're seeing, which I think is particularly interesting, is that there's a realization with the large energy companies that, candidly, every time a consumer buys a new Tesla or some other electric vehicle, their total addressable market for selling fossil fuels shrinks. And it's only accelerating. So what I think is fascinating is you have these legacy energy producers who, quite frankly, are being forced to pivot, a pretty hard pivot, right? They need to really migrate away from selling fossil fuel. So now what we're seeing is a tremendous amount of interest for these energy producers to install EV charging stations. And if you think about the retail footprint, just think about the gas stations in your hometown, right? There is a tremendous retail footprint that we believe can be repurposed to drive sustainability. And again, I think there's this larger collective that's really gaining steam very, very quickly. In fact, in the year 2020, there was only, let's talk about Europe, right, which is by far and away much more advanced in terms of EV availability of EV charging stations. So in the year 2020, there was 2.1 million EV charging stations in Europe. That number is expected to grow to 10 million by the year 2025. And then for the US and Canada, in the year 2020, there was only 900,000 EV charging stations, and that number is expected to grow to 2.6 million by the year 2025. So North America, the US and Canada definitely has some work to do to catch up to Europe. And the question we get asked is, well, why is Europe so much more further along in terms of availability of EV charging? And I don't know the specific answer, but one consideration may be the cost of traditional fossil fuels, right? It's significantly more expensive, with the exception of a few. I live in Southern California, where I paid, you can pay north of $7 a gallon for regular unleaded. So with the exception of a few carve-outs in the US market, I think that's really been one of the economic catalysts to drive this fundamental change, which I think is great and healthy for the environment and the greater good. So just a little context around, a technology provider like Cantaloupe, who has been focused in one area, and our customers are fundamentally driving us to work with them in a different area. So just a little context I thought may be helpful.
Great. Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate your opening remarks. With this, I would like to invite Ethan for his presentation. Ethan, are you ready to? Yeah, great.
Can you guys see my screen?
Perfect.
Yep.
Great. 1 second. So hi, everyone. My name is Ethan Arbiser, and I work at Cox Enterprise. Today, I will take you through the sustainability ecosystem here at Cox Enterprises. For those of you that don't know us, Cox Enterprises is a 100-year-old company that's the parent company for Cox Communications and Cox Automotive. We have over 45,000 employees across the United States, and in 2021, we were close to $21 billion in revenue. Cox Communications, which is our communications branch division of Cox Enterprises. You may know some of their brands like Cox Cable, but we're the third largest telecommunications company in the United States. And then Cox Automotive is the largest automotive retailer in the United States. And some of the brands that you may know of Cox Automotive is Mannheim, Auto Trader, Kelley Blue Book, Dealer Track. So we have, two core businesses. Those are the two, but we have a growing clean tech and sustainability division. In the last 4 years, we've invested almost $1 billion towards clean tech and sustainability, things that will help benefit the world, including indoor ag, waste to energy, mobility, fleet maintenance, and EV battery recycling. So our goal by 2030 is to have a multi-billion-dollar clean tech business. So we're truly invested in sustainability. A little bit about Cox and Cox Conserves, the history of our program. So in 2000, we created the first sustainability initiative focusing on energy conservation. But in 2007, Cox Conserves brand, which is the Environmental Sustainability Group, was launched by Jim Kennedy, our chairman. And the first goal was really to reduce our carbon by 20% in 10 years. Following that, we have our zero waste to landfill goal, which was announced in 2012. And that is to divert 90% or more of our landfill waste from the landfill from our operations. And when we started this goal, our diversion rate was 9%. And what I mean by diversion rate is we were only diverting 9% of our waste from the landfill into other streams to divert, landfill waste, etc. We're currently at 83%, so we've come a really long way. In 2013, 1 year after, we announced our zero goals, now formerly known as net zero. So we set zero goals for water and carbon by 2044. In 2017, we had a big year. We announced a separate clean tech initiative that would solely focus on clean tech investments, due diligence, and M&A for clean tech technology for Cox. And we also published our first corporate sustainability report that year as well. In 2020, we actually accelerated our carbon neutral and water neutral goals by 10 years to 2034, just to show how our progress is going. We've had a lot of success in this space. And then in 2021, we reported our first ESG report. So what does Cox Conserves do? So Cox Conserves is the Environmental Sustainability Group. I'm in the reporting and analytics team. So we help track, measure, and assist all these other teams with their aggressive sustainability goals and reporting it out to various stakeholders. But these are the large areas that we focus on. So number one, reporting and analytics. Two is energy procurement. And for those of you that don't know what that is it's pretty much purchasing and negotiating energy prices for our assets, whether it's a certain load of utilities or purchasing at a very competitive price so we can lock in a price. And we've had actually a lot of success in this space due to recent spikes in energy costs. Another focus for our group is energy conservation. We like to reduce as much as possible on site before we go to any other alternatives to reduce our overall carbon footprint. So this includes engineering, retrofitting, things like that to reduce the carbon footprint on our assets. And what we can't reduce, we try to offset and further reduce our footprint through renewable energy. We have a team that's dedicated to renewable energy solutions on site as well. Next, we have our waste and recycling team, and they're a team dedicated for reducing waste from our landfills. And we have a zero waste to landfill goal for 2024 to reduce 90% of our waste from the landfill, whether it be recycling, repurposing things. And just so you know, Cox Communications, our communications division, is the first telecommunication company to reach zero waste to landfill goal. So that's a really exciting goal that's on the horizon for us. And we're in line to reach that goal. In addition, we have a team member dedicated towards innovation and keeping the eye on the horizon for different technologies that will allow us to further reduce our carbon and water consumption on our facilities. And it's been really, really helpful to us because there's a lot of movement in this space right now. In addition to that, we have a supply chain group that's responsible for vetting and adding certain requirements for our suppliers, our vendors, to ultimately report their footprint. And it just really helps us understand like how we can best choose equipment and technology so that we can also reduce our waste stream and figure out how packaging can be recycled and repurposed. Lastly, we have an investment recovery team, and what their job is to handle end-of-life electronics and find ways to refurbish them or resell the equipment. And this has actually been a huge success for our company. Not only it's saving money, but also reducing landfill waste. So we have our Cox Conserves team does all of these types of initiatives and focuses from our business for the entire organization. Just to show you briefly our path to carbon neutrality, our main priority is to conserve on site. And you can see that's 20% of our way to get to carbon neutrality is through energy conservation. And what we can't conserve, we will resort to Cox owned renewables or more market supplied renewables. And our philosophy is to build and not buy, buy our ways to carbon neutrality. So these are just some of the ways that we are getting towards carbon neutral and to reach our 2034 goal. Just to show you our trajectory for our historical carbon footprint in the last 5 years, in 2017, we were emitting close to 693,000 tons of carbon. But now, you can see we've made a solid effort to reduce that. And now we're at 64,000 tons. So we're on track to reach our goals, and we've made significant strides to get there. Another highlight I'd like to focus on is that 53% of our portfolio will be powered by renewable energy sources by 2024. So we have made significant progress in getting our renewable energy sources powering our portfolio. In terms of waste, so we have a zero waste to landfill goal, as I mentioned, and since the adoption of our goals, we've diverted 41,000 tons from our landfills through our operations, and our enterprise-wide diversion rate is about 83%. So 83% of our the businesses of Cox are diverting 83% right now. Like I said earlier, CCI, Cox Communications, is achieved zero waste to landfill goal, and we're very close to reaching our zero waste to landfill goal. It's right on the horizon, and we're about 92% of the way there. And this just shows you how our historical trends have shown. It hasn't always, it's for the most part been an upward trend, but you can see, in 2017, we got, it wasn't positive results, but that's the story of our waste. It's a very complex workspace, lots of nuances, and we've had a significant growth in this space, and our team has worked so hard to get to where we are now. I want to pivot to Cox Clean Tech. So we have a separate group, the New Ventures group, that focuses on investments to and of companies that will provide a positive impact on the world. These verticals really include telehealth, broadband, infrastructure, mobility, and my personal favorite, clean tech. So we have a separate group that focuses just on clean tech investments, and they really do M&A due diligence for clean tech solutions on behalf of Cox. I'm going to highlight just a few of the investments that we have done in the past few years. Number one is Bright Farms. It's a controlled indoor agriculture. And what they do is they produce leafy greens at 80% less carbon and water use. And they're also the greenhouses are located close to cities so that they can reduce transportation carbon footprint and also increase freshness. So, a lot of our products now, I'm not sure where you guys shop, but a lot of our products are sitting on a truck for maybe a week and a half, transporting the goods to a store. This reduces that. You'll increase the freshness of your product, and it's a win-win not only for the environment but also for the consumers as well. As you can see in the bottom right, there's some of the products in the packaging that we have. So that's Bright Farms. We also have Sierra Energy, and they're a waste to energy company. They use their process FastOX gasification to turn waste into clean gas without burning or creating new waste byproduct. The technology is similar to like a gas furnace where they're heated up, and but there's no necessarily burning or creating new waste. But in addition to that, the goal of this company is to reduce waste and find new ways to create energy through waste. And the waste that's taken is almost anything. It could be municipal solid waste, biomass, hazardous waste, tires, medical waste, and a lot of other things that can be converted into renewable energy safely and responsibly. Lastly, we have of our new ventures, we have Spears New Technology, which is an EV battery recycling company. They refurbish and recycle end-of-life EV batteries. So something we have to consider, especially in the US, is as we go to electrification of our fleets, we have to consider what happens with our EV batteries after they're at the end of life. So this company tackles that problem by refurbishing and recycling them. And the goal, in essence, of the company is to reduce waste and further promote a circular economy. So that's Spears New Technology. I want to pivot towards corporate responsibility, social responsibility. We have a separate CSR team that focuses on corporate engagement and corporate responsibility and reporting. So we've committed to a 34 by 34 goal, which is to positively impact 34 million people by 2034, whether it be through providing STEAM education in the communities we serve, partnering with local nonprofits in environmental and social initiatives, watershed cleanups, or bolstering broadband communities in communities that are lacking these services. So we have a goal to reach that, and we're actively working towards that. Now, a lot of people are talking about ESG. What's the SEC going to do? How does this relate to a private corporation? I will just tell you, our CSR team, social responsibility team, is strategically aligning with several of the popular frameworks right now. And they're not only doing that because it's a way to stay competitive, but it's also the right thing to do. ESG has been a thing at Cox before it was called ESG. There are so many different types of social diversity, equity, inclusion programs as well, in addition to environmental sustainability programs at Cox. And there are many, many opportunities and programs here at Cox that focus on ESG. And while we've been doing it for a while, the first ESG report was published in 2021. So I'd like to highlight some of the pillars of our success in terms of sustainability programs. Number one is the tone at the top. The family, the CEO, Alex Taylor, and the C-suite are all major advocates of sustainability, and it's highlighted in the company culture. Another aspect that promotes the culture and further instills sustainability is the employee engagement piece. So we have a variety of different opportunities for the employee base to get involved and to reduce carbon footprint on the offices or at home. So this allows the employee base to embrace sustainability further, and also mobilizes the sustainability in different employee engagement opportunities. For example, this is a small, simple example, but when we're in the office in the HQ in Atlanta, the employees have to be educated and knowledgeable about where things are supposed to be thrown out, whether it be composting, recycling, etc., because we have a zero waste to landfill goal, and every person makes a difference when we are doing that, whether it be at the auto auctions or in the field. Excuse me. Lastly, we have investment. So there's significant investment in sustainability, not just within clean tech, but throughout the entire organization. That further instills culture of sustainability. And this investment really, really drives home this overall success of our sustainability program. Once you walk in the doors at Cox Enterprises, you are very aware that sustainability is front of mind, not only for the C-suite and the high-level execs, but for anyone at the company. So in short, I'll leave it at this. We must collaborate together to create a better future for the next generation. We share the earth, and nothing at Cox is proprietary, So we're happy to help others embark on their sustainability journey as well. And I want to say thank you to Dr. John McIntyre and Ani for this opportunity, and I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Ethan. Very interesting, fascinating. Such a huge work is going on at the Cox Enterprises. With this, I have some questions, and I'll ask first question to Jeff. Jeff, in your industry, unattended retail innovation, there are a lot of innovation is happening, not only in Cantaloupe, but with other companies in the industry. People in the near future, we are likely to move into a store without checking in, checking out, just pick up the stuff and move. Would you like to share some more? And these are going towards more greener technologies,
Yeah, exactly. So I think one area that we find of particular interest is using autonomous vehicles for making deliveries, right? And there's really two lenses to view that. There's business to consumer. So think about Uber Eats, DoorDash, right? A restaurant delivers, their goods or services to a consumer at their house. But then on a exponentially larger scale in the business to business environment, which is really where Cantaloupe focuses. So my principal customer is a vending operator, right? Who may have 5,000, 10,000. Some of our customers have over 100,000 vending machines dispersed across a defined geography. So one of the things that, and again, some of these operators may service an NFL football stadium where they're delivering 150,000 bottles of water for an event that's taking place on Sunday. Or so you start looking at the number of trucks that historically have had to be on the road burning fossil fuels to deliver the goods and services. And you insert where autonomous vehicles can really move the needle in terms of sustainability. And that we think that's really, really exciting. And the environment where Cantaloupe really participates in that ecosystem is we provide our vending operators with a suite of back office cloud software tools so that they can tell on a remote basis through a few keystrokes what inventory levels, reordering levels, troubleshooting vending machines that may go offline. So we are really laser focused on providing our customers with the tools to, quite frankly, keep their service technicians and their fossil fuel burning trucks off the road. And where I think the long tail on this is, as autonomous vehicles in the business to business segment become more refined, more mainstream, more perfected, I anticipate there's going to be a swap, right? Because just from a labor shortage standpoint, some of our vending operators are having a very difficult time finding employees to get on those trucks to get behind the wheel of these fossil fuel burning trucks, right? So there's a couple birds with one stone that autonomous vehicle, electric vehicle delivery can solve. And that's really, really attractive certainly for my clients. Now, just to set expectations, we're still in the early stages here, but like some of the other areas I mentioned, there's a tremendous amount of interest and catalyst driving this change, and like a lot of new technologies, it'll once you get this core group focus on something, then it starts to really pick up speed. So I'm very bullish on the future of autonomous vehicles for the business to business space, where I think there's a tremendous amount of growth. And the other thing too is, coming out of COVID, a lot of people would order goods online from large retailers and then do self-checkout through Instacart or some of the other e-commerce payment checkout systems. And again, all of those, but the consumer would still need to drive to the store, right, in their fossil fuel burning car, load their trunk full of groceries, and then drive back home. And another evolution of this autonomous vehicle opportunity is, there's an opportunity for these really large big box retailers to leverage autonomous vehicles driven by EV technology to, again, get fossil fuel burning trucks off the road and replace them. So that's just kind of a few different areas that we think are of particular interest. And again, our focus is to provide our customers with the business intelligent tools so that they don't need to send people out. They can troubleshoot remotely. And if we do that effectively, I think, you know, that's one piece of the puzzle, but it's going to take a larger collective effort to really move it. But we're seeing green shoots of opportunity, and again, very optimistic. We're optimistic at Cantaloupe that it's a great growth path for us.
Thanks, Jeff. There is a question in the QA from Professor Donald Huising. What is the process of managing, repairing your vending machines? How are they managed at the end of their lives?
Yeah, that's a great question. So what's really interesting is if in terms of, I'll take the US market in particular, there are some vending machines that you will see that have been literally been in the market for north of 20 years. They tend to last a very long time. And while Cantaloupe doesn't make the vending machines themselves, we make the credit card acceptance machine that gets attached to the physical vending machine. And part of our service is we provide a 4G telemetry device that gets inserted inside the machine, right? So if you're a consumer, you dip your card to buy your bottled water, that's the consumer facing bezel, if you will. But in the back of the machine, there's a 4G telemeter that sends real-time data back to our cloud software platform. And the reason that's relevant is that before this 4G telemetry technology, our customers, again, would have to put service technicians on the road in trucks to go out and fix these machines remotely. And the vending machine original equipment manufacturers who literally bend the metal and create the vending machines, they're also leveraging similar technology so that they can also avoid sending out, you know, service technicians to physical locations. So it's all about enabling, and the evolution of cloud software has really made huge advancements and allowed a lot of companies to troubleshoot remotely and keep people off the road. So I think we're working, you know, we work very closely with all of the vending operator manufacturers. But, you know, again, just to be clear, Cantaloupe's role in the ecosystem is really the payments and the transmission of data so that our customers can run their business intelligently on a remote basis.
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks for that clarification. Ethan, I have a long question for you, which I've sent you in the chat. Can you please read it and answer it?
Sure. The question is, tire recycling involves incineration and releases carbon into the air and chemicals that leach into water. Are there clean tech solutions that companies are working with? The projections indicate the growing use of tires by EVs, ICE cars, and autonomous vehicles. Is this problem being addressed? Even landfills don't want tires. So I think there's two questions in here. Number one is so Cox Automotive, you know, automotive retailer, they'll refurbish cars and resell them. So tires are often a big item on that. You know, want to make sure the tires are okay before you resell them. So we have our waste team manages relationships with different companies that will be able to take tires, recycle them, repurpose them. So tires are not even going into the waste stream for our operations. They're recycled. And if it did, it would cause a ton of waste in our waste stream and a lot of weight as well. In terms of like the tire incineration, I believe you're probably thinking about Sierra Energy, where we are incinerating different waste. So tire waste would not be included in that. We try to recycle that, but anything that can't be recycled or repurposed in the typical space, like biohazards, things like that, that's where Sierra Energy is their prime focus. In addition to that, the use of tires and EVs. So Cox, in general, in the clean tech space, are trying to find solutions to problems that our world are currently facing or will be facing in the future. So food accessibility and shortages are, well documented now. So right farms and acquisitions of other agricultural verticals are a priority for us. In addition to that, EV batteries, recycling, we see an adoption, quick adoption of EV cars. So we're trying to stay ahead of the game when it comes to clean tech solutions.
Okay, all right. Now, in terms of, this is a question to Jeff. Jeff, in terms of your industry, which is unattended retail, there are a lot of competition is also coming. And, how can you distinguish Cantaloupe from the competition and the areas in which your competition has started working and you have not yet started that?
Yeah, so one of the things, so again, while we've been talking about unattended retail, there's also the other side of, the commerce value chain, which is, attended retail, right? So traditional retail, where you walk into a brick and mortar traditional environment, whether it's your favorite restaurant or your favorite retailer, and there's clerks behind point of sale checkout systems. Another trend that we think is of particular interest is a lot of traditional attended brick and mortar retailers are starting to install self-serve kiosk checkouts for a variety of reasons. The availability to find reliable labor has been a challenge. I think we've all seen that in the news the last couple of years. The cost of staffing, the brick and mortar retail environments is prohibitive in some areas. And quite frankly, it's largely generational, but a lot of the younger consumers candidly would prefer to do self-checkout on a kiosk versus having to queue up in a brick and mortar retail environment and get in to checkout. So one of the areas that and that's been my traditional background. I've been in that space, the attended retail space, for north of 20 years. So one of the areas where we think we differentiate ourselves from our competition is we have the ability to really bridge our expertise in unattended retail and bring that knowledge base over to attended retail. And again, I think there's, like, for the reasons I mentioned, there's a tremendous amount of interest, and I anticipate that will pick up dramatically. I mean, think about the next time in your local airport, there's self-serve checkout kiosks in places like Hudson News, or Panera Bread has a self-checkout, right? If you just want to grab a bottle of water, scan it and go, right? So there's this change in consumer behavior that is really driving the fundamental change in the way that consumers purchase goods, whether it's unattended retail or attended retail. And frankly, what we're starting to see is this morphing. There's this collision, right? There used to be these very distinct ring-fenced retail environments for unattended retail versus attended retail. Those walls are coming down quickly due to cloud technology, the fact that younger consumers love, using their iPhones or Apple Pay to pay for goods and services. In fact, here's an interesting statistic. Pre-pandemic, Apple Pay penetration in the US was between 2 to 3%. So 2 to 3% of consumers pre-pandemic were using their iPhones to pay for goods. Coming out of COVID, that number is north of 30%. Wow. Okay, in 2 years. So that's being largely driven by, teenagers, younger consumers. So it's important for us to really stay aware and plugged into the preferences of the consumers, right? Because they're the ones who actually who purchase goods and services from my customers. So and I think in terms of what we do versus our competition, I think we're really laser focused on that. And again, we think there's a huge opportunity, down the road And quite frankly, it makes the total addressable market enormous, right? It becomes 10x of what the area we're focused on now. So
Great, thank you. So with this, I think my time for this session is up. I really thank you, Ethan and Jeff. It's a very interesting dialogue. Most of us read about it, but when you are attending sessions like that, it's very educative. And I want to thank you, and please stay tuned for the Q&A session after this session of Dr. McIntyre. With this, I invite Dr. McIntyre to begin session number 4.